the audit is a thing. The audit is coming and after tax season, which is normal, and more federal grants goes into business that create cases for further compliance audit. So, in one word, audit is a thing. So you have to understand when you come around rushing into Community CPA's office and says, I got audited. And don't sound so excited, okay? It is not it is neutral matter, okay? Don't need to get excited. And we just need to figure out whether it is real or not. And can you believe that? We have people who come in and definitely stressed out and got audited. Ying, I got audited. Then when I asked, where is your letter that you got audited? What do you mean? What letter? And I got audited. I got the call. They told me that they're gonna come to my business if I don't answer them, and in this couple of days. So I need to make sure that I pay whatever they wanted me to pay. Then if you ask, what do they want you to pay? They already have a number. So obviously those are not real audit, right? So it's really audit is audit in our country, in United States of America, is a well-established process that you can trust. And you know that if you get audited and you'll for sure receive something, not an email, and not a phone call, and certainly not a knocking on the door with some sort of metal badges goes, you got audited. No way. You get notified. Of course, I personally do not work with criminal investigation side. The lawyers are the one maybe work on that more. So how did FBI and the criminal investigation people getting into the person to investigate? Maybe that is a knock on the door and the surveillance or whatever, but we're talking about normal audit. We're talking about, in the normal business process and how you should be experiencing that. So let's go. I am going to start sharing our screen. No responsibility disclaimer on behalf of myself and also on behalf of Community CPA. And understand we are here providing your free service, and whatever we said here, it is based on our experience and knowledge. You can never learn enough. You can never experience everything. So everything is related to our background. So we speak your language, but we speak in terms of the collective community experience. So do take it with grain of salt. All right. And you get audited. How did you know you got audited? Not by a call, okay? And not just by a knock on the door, and certainly not by email. And maybe in the future, it will develop into an email, but not right now. Right now, you should be getting a letter. When you get a letter, follow up on that letter. Maybe it's a call or maybe even an on-site visit, but the letter is the beginning. So you will get a letter. Sometimes people discover they got audited and by surprise, the kind of surprise like at the closing table for selling their house, and suddenly the closer said that, well, you have $50,000 you need to pay to IRS. You go, oh no, I didn't. I never really have that 50,000. No, you do, because you get audited and you never showed up. So this is the assessment they got. So you discover that in your other line of activities. Or even in the immigration interviews, you become a citizen, excited, and getting your green card. And then there you go, you got unpaid federal bills and audit letter was never answered. So those will bubble up because they're all federal agencies, right? Also at a job interview, you could be interviewing for some jobs that require you to have a financial literacy within your own personal life, and you didn't. And those record, with your permission, people can draw your record from IRS or from other agencies to see whether you are in compliant or not. So those are the things will make you wonder, will make you realize, oh yeah, I got audited. So but getting audited is a neutral matter. It's really, there's no good or bad. I would never really say that, you know, of course, for your own personal time and experience, you call it bad because you have to do this other than other things to deal with the audit, right? But looking the audit from the governmental or management standpoint, you know, the government entities, they have to go through some sort of compliance measure in order to make sure that all citizens in the country, or you know, by sampling them and to find out that they do understand the law and the requirement, they are following the procedures. So these are all necessary to run a country. I would say that, you know, there's an old Chinese saying goes that if you want to run a good country, and you have to run a good community. If you run a good community, you have to run a good family. If you want to run a good family, you have to run your own personal affairs, financial affair properly. So that is kind of how that triggering down to you, only you. So if you are, you know, financially messy and don't know how to manage your own money and owe your money anywhere, and or just really struggling with your cash handling, then that is where you know, if we reflect that into a country level, then you just really not managing your governmental affairs properly. That is where the audit comes in. The government will imposing audit to you to make sure you're in compliance. And there's also another side of audit that is going on, required to some nonprofit organizations and government agencies. They require them, the stakeholders, the funders that will require, or the government would require this agency or this entity to be audited by a third-party independent auditor company. So like Community CPA, and we would go in to audit a school. And we are independent from the school, but we audit the school to make sure that the school has been spending their fund according to the requirement of Department of Education, right? So those are just, audit is a tool. It's a tool for the country to run properly. So your next question here is that, how did I get selected to be audited? Obviously, not everybody get audited. I am special. I got selected to be audited. And who select you? Normally is when in this particular webinar, we're talking about the federal government selecting you for audit. So the three very popular and the most seen governmental auditors coming from is IRS, Treasury, Department of Treasury, and the DOL. And SBA is another one that I need to add on it, because with pandemic payment that coming through, SBA becoming pretty significant. They are going to do compliance audit on those PPP you applied, and on these RRF you did, and the sheltered venue grant you applied. And those are all you know, those are the entities, those are the government agencies that would be interested to audit you to ensure that you applied the funds properly. You're really eligible for the funds, and you really spend the fund according to the rules and regulations. Okay. And then you say that why they, you know, okay, now I know who select for the federal audit. So why me? Why me? You know, the other person also got a PPP, and why not that person? Why me, right? So of course there are triggers, right? We call them triggers. And so I kind of listed a couple of the triggers here. So misreporting income. So you made $100, you report $10, misreporting income, or you made $100 and you accidentally put in $1 million on there, misreporting income, and a disproportionate deduction to the nature of your business income. For example, if you are a restaurant and you are deducting, say, tips, and your restaurant total revenue is 100,000 and you want to deduct 60,000 on tips, of course not, right? So those are disproportionate. It's not really, it doesn't fall into the nature of the business. So you got to understand how your business, how is your norm for your type of business. Excessive expenses. So, you can easily understand what that means, and the expenses are not normal and they are just out of proportion, and you got $100,000 income, you deduct 60,000 on tips. That's excessive. That's just not a norm. Normally the tips is running from 10% to 25% of your sales, right? That's the tips. But obviously 60% is not norm. Large amount of cash transactions. This is something that ever since 9/11, this has become a part of law, and it's Bank Secrecy Act, right? It's by Department of Treasury. And if you have a large amount of cash, there are tools put in place to report that to IRS. So IRS knows that you're handling large amount of cash. The bank is regulated to monitoring those activities. So those will be an easy trigger for the government to wanting to look at your business. If you're a grocery business and you have a lot of cash transactions and you also submit wires to other country, and then you got an audit from Department of Treasury, yeah, very likely. They normally, they call that compliance education. They come in to see how your records are, whether you are following the rules. They give you recommendation, let you run again, then they come back again. So it is really a more of an educational process. I have not seen our client get penalized over that, because all of the Department of Treasury's audit we have gone through are more educational in general, and they come in, they want to see how things are going, and if it is done really well, and a thumbs up. If it is not, and they tell you how to make changes. So a lot of our clients are doing a really good job, so we have not seen any penalties and charges related to that. And claiming business loss year after year. So this is kind of related to a definition of business or hobby, and how could anybody get in business and the objective of it is to lose money every year? Of course not, right? And of course people are trying to make money. So if you are year after year claiming losses, you got to have a reason. There are legitimate reasons, because some business are equipment heavy. So when they come into a business endeavor, they spend a lot of money on equipment, on facilities. And so the first couple of years, just depreciation alone, and it would not allow them to make any profit. Those are understandable loss year after year. And for cash businesses like a retail business, year after year of losses, that probably means that the business needs to be closed. So we will, those are the triggers. And also, of course, misclassification of employee is another trigger. So say if you're running a restaurant and by going through your tax return, you have no employees. How could that be? You say, well, I do. I just pay them by 1099. See, that is what we call misclassification of employees. And this is a trigger, it's a big one. Not only trigger for IRS, it's also a trigger for Department of Labor. All right, so I got audited. Does that mean I am in trouble? And does that mean I am bad? And is that a black mark on my record? I couldn't really get my green card anymore. I cannot become a citizen anymore. Is that what that is? No. So like I said, audit is a mean for the government to safeguard the economic platform. So we are all competing on the same ground. We are all being treated fairly. And you can imagine that if you and I were running the same business, and you are cutting corners and doing wrong things, reporting losses and saving taxes, but I am here doing everything properly by the rule. And if you don't get audited and just me doing things by the rule, and then I am not getting awarded either. So I am losing the competitive edge with you because you got more money than I do and it expanded faster, but because I follow the rules, so I'm lagging behind. So this is really what we called competing on the equal ground, right? So audit, it is almost seen as the benchmark that to bring people to the standards. If you get audited, you got charged a lot of money. That just means that there are things you do are not in compliance with what should be done. And if that's the case, you upgrade and you change. So then you can become truly Americanized in the business environment here in United States of America. I always tell our folks that, especially, how our firm, we speak 9 different languages. So we are exposed to a lot of people who are just great entrepreneurs with the spirit of hardworking and really frugal, and it doesn't spend a penny on themselves. They just really worked, and worked. Pretty much like me. I'm just like, I don't really have any other hobbies, and I just work. But with that, if we do not know, if we only know how to speak English, feels like we're American and we are speaking English just right, but you don't really learn the business techniques and the way to handle business here in US, you are not Americanized in business world, right? So in my second book I'm writing, which is Appointment with Ying at 10 a.m., I talk about that citizenship, not so much of the citizenship you got with your passport here in the United States of America. I am talking about the citizenship in business world and how you can bring yourself mentally and to fit that cultural environment, know how to deal with audit and looking at audit straight to your eyes and know that it's okay. I can get audited, but I will deal with it professionally and I will learn from it. And I will have professional people to help me, represent me. So my intentions are not misunderstood. Okay. So there are, so many years ago, I have a Asian business owner, and he actually got audited. He already finished the audit, and the audit denied all of his cost of goods sold purchase, all of it. So he has a huge amount to pay for taxes. So he came to me and showed me the audit report, and I look at the cost of goods sold invoices, and I'm really okay with those invoices. I think it's legit, and why they deny it, I don't really know either. So I looked into it further. I noticed that on the invoice to, the cost of goods sold, the product he bought from the wholesaler, instead of addressing his business name, it is actually have a English name on it. So it is an English name to not give out the confidential information. Let's just say John Doe. It has John Doe on it, but he has a different name because he is an immigrant. So he has a native name from his own country. So I asked him, I said, John, why are you, so these invoices are under John, and who is John? Because I also know him with a native name. He goes, what do you mean? That's my name. I become a citizen. I changed my name. Oh, okay. So did you tell the auditor that this is your name and you got your passport? So you actually updated your name from the native name to this English name? No, nobody asked me. I didn't know why I need to tell them that. So I went ahead, did submitted paper to the audit manager and to explain to them that, look, here is the citizenship document, and his name was this way and changed to this. So these cost of goods sold receipt that you see, it is 100% for him because it just has a different name on it. Okay, so that is how, sure, you get audited, but if you are doing the right thing and there is nothing to worry, and eventually you'll go through the process and learn from that. So now you need to know that when you talk to your auditor, you need to tell your auditor that you change your name. So that way, and they can include those expenses for you so you don't end up paying so much taxes, right? So audit will exist. And if you felt the audit is not fair, and for whatever reason, and there are things put in place for citizens, for people like us to go above and beyond the auditor and to seek for fairness. So there is really the system. The system is so well designed, and you do not need to worry about that. You can, and you will find the justice. And so here I listed the first person you need to talk to is the manager of the auditor. Then the second layer is appeals. You can go to appeals and talk about your case, make adjustment to what the auditor already charged you. Then if the appeals doesn't work, you can go to tax court or court, administrative court, and to resolve that. And there is also ombudsman's office that you can work with, which will also help you to justify this treatment to you is not fair, and the audit shouldn't be here, or whatever you were talking about. Then of course in tax world, in the IRS world, there is an organization, right, called Taxpayer Advocacy Office, Advocate Office. Here in each state, it has office, has one or two of those offices. So you can go there to resolve your IRS Department of Treasury issues there. And with SBA, and you also have this kind of process, similar process to resolve that. And of course, you can go to your local elected officers, elected officials like senators, congressmen and women, right? You vote for them. And if you vote for them, you have issues with federal government, and that is where you need to go to. And you can talk to them to have them helping you. And I will tell you that the senators and Congress men and women, they're really there for you, and they're not decorative person in the system, in the hierarchy of the system, just sit there. And they are the one is your ears, your eyes, and you need to give them that information to really work with them if you felt things were not going was not going correctly, right? And so now let's talk about what are the common audits. Because when you say that I got audited, and immediately I need to figure out who is auditing you. Is that federal or state? So now you say it's federal, then which agency, right? Is that SBA, IRS, Department of Treasury, or what? And then once we know that, and we will be asking you what type of audit is that, because IRS could bring about income tax audit, payroll tax audit, right? Department of Labor could bring about misclassification of employee audit, and Small Business Administration could bring about pandemic funding related audit. All right, so now let's just look at what are the common triggers of all of these audits. So for IRS, data mismatch, and we talked about how the income is not the same number, that's data mismatch. And data deviation score. So this is what inside of IRS, and they actually by industry standards, by your type of industry, they know that if you're a restaurant, your cost of goods sold goes from 20% all the way to 40% is reasonable. And then based on what type of restaurant you are, if you are a steakhouse and your cost of goods sold can go up to as high as 40%. But if you are a buffet style, a restaurant, your cost of goods sold can go down as low as 23%. So it is really, they have this data deviation score. They look at your taxes and the system will play the score, will bring out the one that is out of norm. Then you will be audited based on someone looking at those scores and thinking, yeah, it is abnormal. Let's look at this case, right? Cash deposit is another one, and report by whistleblowers. So whistleblowers are the folks who felt the organization or the business and or even the employee of the organization would report to the government that this happened and I don't think they're doing it right. A lot of DOL, Department of Labor audit, is triggered by employees who actually calling to the DOL saying that they were not paid properly by the boss and they, they're underpaying them. So, those are triggers. And there's nothing really you can prevent for whistleblowers, right? Some whistleblowers are completely fraudulent. They just want to cause you trouble, or they're a competitor of your business. They didn't like you set up another office next to them and they're doing this. The government is also not totally blindsided. The government also understand those whistleblowers, some of them are not legit. And so that's why not every whistleblowers can blow up the organization, because they do look at that independently to decide whether this is a good lead or not, right? So DOL, like I said, Department of Labor is totally a lot of cases we see come through our desk is related to whistleblowers report. Of course, your SBA. Your SBAs can be triggered by the amount of PPP you are getting. If you're getting more than $2 million, you are mandatorily to be audited. So that's just written in the law. But if you are under, you are randomly selected, which is very normal. So those are, as long as you are getting government money, you already have the trigger. So unless you didn't get any government money, then that would not be, the SBA would not be a trigger. So I think majority of the business over the pandemic time, we all have those triggers. So to be audited, it's just gonna be way of life. So the best way to stay out of audit, obviously, even though there's triggers, not 100% of database got audited, and you still fall into the small percentage of it. So what is the best way to stay out of that? So the answer is there is no 100% guarantee that whatever you do can prevent you from being audited. You're always subject to audit, and that is a given. But to minimize that, there's ways to minimize that. And at least, my first one is understand the computerized system checkpoints. So, now with technology advancement, the more and more human checking analytical procedures are replaced by the machine, right? So you want to make sure that you understand the computerized systematic checkpoints. And I will tell you that not everybody understand that. It does take someone, not just an accountant and a tax accountant, but with a fairly good computer knowledge and understand this computer movement, the IT movement in the country, to really understand which can be replaced by systematic checkpoints. So, I would say that we have a really good understanding of that, just because, IT side of practice is always a nature for Community CPA. We are actually one of those firms already on cloud computing back in 2007. When folks are still wondering, all kind of safety issues and not sure what to do, and or not trusting the cloud-based computing, wait and see kind of things, we already are on it. So we have been on Thomson Reuters cloud-based computing since when? Since 2007. So that kind of give you an understanding that as a firm, we embrace the technology advancement and always making that the priority in our practice, because that increase our efficiency and also increase our accuracy in data error. So we don't mistakenly putting in wrong data. And stay legally compliant with government procedures and requirement. This is a very general sentence, but it is really meant to say that all of the reporting requirement, you got to meet the deadline. You have to support them on time. I am talking about on the weekly basis, and maybe your payroll report is due every week. And on the monthly basis, maybe your sales tax is monthly. On the quarterly basis, maybe your quarterly report on the payroll that is due. Then on the annual basis, your taxes and your license and your registration with your state, all of these government requirements, and should not be forgotten. Should not say that, well, I will do that later. It's okay. I'm okay to pay a little bit penalty and I'll get it done. But sure, you can pay a little bit penalty and be late, but that puts you in the category of high risk. So that puts you into a category of data that will be drawn out for audit more frequently because you are not following the rules and regulations. So you really want to be the kind of person that cares about it, okay? Especially if you are in business. And a clear and accurate bookkeeping. I am talking about bookkeeping. Bookkeeping, the one that you don't think anybody can help you. The one that you are doing it yourself and you think you know how to add and subtract. And you want to do it clear and accurately. When I say accurate, I'm not saying that what you are adding and subtracting is exactly what the tax is going to be, but at least whatever you spend, you need to have a receipt. Whatever you gain, whatever you get, you need to have an invoice and to tie it with it. So you're in and out on the cash at the business income and expense level and need to be very accurate. There should be no omitted transactions. So this is where I say that this is your beginning step of a clean and accurate bookkeeping. Your beginning step of getting through audit without issue. Then, of course, I encourage you to hire professionals to assist you to apply money saving techniques in your industry. So I say that is because more and more the tax knowledge and the legal side of things with the law firms and those knowledge become very proprietary. It is just really not as easy to make it understood by the public like it used to. I want to say that all the tax, everything, all the rules that are coming out, really everybody should understand. But I know a whole group of people never read, but they are good businessmen and women. They run big business, but they don't read. And I mean, I even know professionals who doesn't read. And we're talking about the variety of human tendencies, and reading takes time. And so there's a lot of people don't have time to read. And if you are one of those, and then the knowledge that's coming in print, it's just not available to you. So what you do is you probably log on to our YouTube, start listening to what we're talking about to retain knowledge that way. There's a lot of people retaining knowledge by listening. I actually learned all English by listening. I'll tell you that sometimes I didn't know how to spell that word yet, but I already know how to say it. So that just proved to myself that I actually listened to it and I learned that way. So many people are that way, right? So in that case, sometimes you don't hear. If you are not surrounded by people with those kind of knowledge, you don't hear. The only way you can hear those knowledge, know the money saving techniques that is available to your industry, it is really to get to know people who are actually around you, can have a voice. So almost like you logging onto YouTube, start listening to me, right? And with that, and you want to make sure that you hire people. If you don't have that environment to bring you that knowledge, your mom and dad don't talk about business at the dinner table, and you are just the first one in your family ever getting into business, and then you are the first one in your family ever got audited, then you need to really know that there is a big gap between amateurs than the professionals. And the more I am in this field, the more I know that is regardless how smart you are, you're smart, period. But people who are in this field are just not at the same level. They know more. Okay. So, one good example would be that we have a tax payer who coming into our office and needing to pay over, I don't quite remember, I think it's over $50,000 income tax due that he's needing to write a check to pay to IRS because the due date is here. And he doesn't have the money. So he coming in trying to figure out what's going to happen if he filed this tax return, but without, without money, and what IRS going to do to him, because he is, he has a business, but he's waiting for his citizenship. He's really scared and worried about he will never become a U.S. citizen because he's already owing so much money. And generally speaking, our tax system should not make people borrow money to pay taxes unless you are very irresponsible for your business and you're gambling it all out or whatever happened. So, but this gentleman who comes in and doesn't have the 50,000, we know exactly why he doesn't. Because he hasn't even received it yet. And he is counting on money that he think he made, because client says that I'll pay you, but he did not get the cash. So he doesn't have the money. But obviously it's in his book, he has it because his book was saying that he received the income, there is a receivable. So with this type of small business Schedule C, normally we report you on cash base. If you haven't even received the money, and why would you pay taxes for that? You want to pay taxes when you receive that money. So those kind of things are really coming into play. That's a professional work. And for an ordinary citizen, you're not in accounting. How did you know there's a tax, there is a cash base and accrue base difference? There is a accounting financial statement and versus tax reporting differences, and the temporary differences in tax reporting. So those are things that, I want to convince you that when you are in business, your ears should be listened to the professional, and don't try to invent things on your own, which is wrong. And then you would end up being audited and also has no way out but pay. So with that, and I want to kind of show you the kind of talk to you about the tiers in terms of audit. You got audited, so your first person you meet is the auditor. The auditors are the warriors, the soldiers of the government entity. So they are the one coming in to place judgment on you. They're gonna questioning you, ask you what you do and everything. Then they will place their judgment. You owe or you are fine, you don't. Say their judgment is not fair to you and you don't agree, so you can go for appeals. And you also can go to ombudsman's office, and which SBA has the process. And you also can exercise your right with IRS to know that what you can do to encounter your situation. You can hire community CPA to represent you. You can hire your lawyer to represent you. So in that process, because of the knowledge your attorney and the community CPA has, then we know that what need to be presented to the auditor to show that you're actually running an honest and a proper business. Even if there is a tax due, it is merely the fact that you did not account that accurately. So there is a miscalculation or misunderstanding of how you should be reporting taxes. I had one case that the business owner is running a restaurant, and he actually in his he had a misunderstanding. So in his total income, he took away the tips. So he know that tips should not be part of the total income. He's only putting in the income that he pays sales tax on there. But then on the expenses side, and he actually expends the tips again. Does that make sense? So, but he didn't know. And he know that income is income, okay, with no tips. But when he run the paycheck, the tips is already there. So he actually counted the tips twice, right? He reduced it from the income, then he also reduced it from the expense. So he ended up owing more taxes, but it's such an understandable mistake. easily made. So those are the mistakes that's why we get audited. So you correct your mistake, you do it right, and then the agency, the government agency, also collect those information, knowing that okay, this is the area that we need to do. We need to do more education to the business people, so that way they don't end up owing this money. So those are the things. You it is a way that for you to work with IRS or work with other federal agency properly. So this is the right, and you have a right to be informed. So the IRS can tell you why you are getting audited. You can ask. You say, why am I being audited? Well, maybe it's just like winning lottery and they're doing sampling, so you got sampled out, right? And you can know, or maybe it is because something was wrong, and maybe your partner get audited, so because your partner's tax return had a lot of issue, so they believe that you would have a lot of issues, so you get audited. So all kind of reason, right? And then you also have a right to hire representatives, so you can retain us, you can retain your lawyers, you can retain your mom and dad, your brothers, sisters, to represent you. So those are all allowed. So with that, kind of give you a comfort, knowing that there's rules and regulation to protect you. So you have these rights. At the same time, and to have you understand that when you get audited, there's nothing to worry, and you just need to know why you get audited, and then you go about dealing with information that the government agency need. Prepare them. I have I have a client who is a professional in decorating. So every time she comes in to submit her working papers to us, so we can pay the sales tax and run the payroll for her, and her package came in with the bowls and with the decorations on it. It's like a gift package, but if you open it, it's papers about the accounting. So I can see that to be a dealing, and so just make your paperwork presentable, giving that best effort how, and to the agency, to the auditor that who is auditing you. That is just ultimately the best way to handle the audit. So now I want you to kind of look some data with me. So I believe that right now you can see the website. Am I right? Kat, can you confirm this is the website?
Yes.
All right, so I pull out the IRS data for you because I want to tell you that how necessary that is to have audit going on by the government to the citizens and to the business owners in United States. Here is the compliance activities in 2019, so not too far from today. And look at this chart. So this pie chart says that the IRS generated $30.5 billion from audit. Okay, so it gives you a breakdown how much is from what. So the large green one, this is 13.8 billion is from the field examination. Field examination just means that they actually would go to the business to look at the business or meet you at your location. So you are audited by the local office. So this is a field examination. Then the next tier of examination is correspondence examination. This largely representing the CP 2000. Those are the notice that you're getting saying that, hey, IRS says that you got more income. How come you didn't report? Here is the additional taxes you should pay. So those are correspondence. You don't meet with the auditor. You actually just write letters and do faxes and presenting your case through the internet. So then they assess you. So that generated $3.5 billion. And then automated under reporter 6.7 billion. So there is also a report coming out and the notes, for example, and you did your tax return, and on the federal on your W2, and your withholding dollars supposed to be 5,000, you accidentally put in 50,000. So you got a $45,000 refund because you put in the wrong number, right? And the automated system at IRS will correct you because they know that that W-2 didn't withhold that much. So you won't get your 45,000 and they will reduce that down to 0. So those are automated reporting. So corrected right there. And so you don't even see the refund and you don't even see the money, and you either get a notice saying you owe more or you get notice saying you got less. So that's that one. Automated substitute for returns. What is that? When you don't file your tax returns and you say, well, I make so little money, I'm not doing tax return, and Ying charged me too much, I'm not going there. Okay, the IRS actually will do a substitute return for you. They do it for you because they see you have income, you owe money. They would not let you be just there. So when they do the substitute return, they will say, oh, you owe this money. Then they send you notice to pay. So these are substitute tax return. And one thing I want to add here, if you don't file tax return, statutory limitation will never run off, which means that you can be audited anytime to the past because you never filed your return. So you don't have the 3 years limitation, statutory limitation. But if you filed your return in 3 years' time, the audit would not happen just because statutory limitation is over. Of course, that's in general, right? They can still open your audit for carrying over values or for criminal investigations, whatever happens. So IRS has right to open your taxes. But in general, there's a 3-year statutory limitation to expire. So when you get audited, say you get audited today for auditing your 2019 tax return, then they will go to 2019 and 18, they won't go to 2017. So that is where, because we're already in 2020 tax return done. So year 1, 2020, year 2, 2019, year 3, 2018, those are the 3 years you will be audited right now as we speak. Okay, so I want you to see how this chart is IRS information tells you how they do audit. So the part you're really thinking and really register with you, get you scared, get you stressed out, it is the green part, which is a very large part of the audit. And most of the audit is conducted by the local office, and that's how they do it. And it's $30 billion. That is the PPP. No, that is RF. The RF was carved out 28 billion, right? So that alone can pay for the RF fund. So that's that. I want to show you. And then the other thing I want to show you is that in IRS website, and I want you to know that there is a thing called there's a thing called IRM. I want you to see the IRS website and Internal Revenue Manual, IRM. And if I type into this, did you see that I come to Internal Revenue Manual? I just read this for you because I want you to know what that is. This Internal Revenue Manual is the source of instructions to IRS staff and includes policies, authorities, procedures, instructions, guidelines related to the operation of IRS. So it is the Bible for the IRS employees and IRS, this whole organization, how they run. So in here, you can find examination process. You can learn what they do when they audit you. Okay, so if I lead you to here, see, this is one of the chapter in the IRM, and let me make it bigger. So in this chapter, it talks about how they should be questioning you when they are doing audit, ideas for initial interview questions. So if you're ever wondering, oh, wow, I need to go for audit, they want to see me. What do they want to ask? And it's right here. It is on internet. It's nothing even proprietary to me. I'm like you. I just look at these things, right? So they ask you things like how long you are in business, who is your principal customers. Why do they care about that? They want to know your business so they can assess whether your reports is accurate or not. Okay. See, they want to know who keeps the books. And they also want to know and check to cash. So they want to know that how you handle your cash, how you handle your check. And so personal withdrawals as a business owner, nobody gonna tell you you cannot withdraw money out of business. But as a business, when you get audited, they want to know how you as an owner draw cash out of the business. How do you pay yourself? So do you have safety deposit box? Why do they want to know that? Because they want to know what's in there. If you say, yes, I do, I have a big one, and I have cash in there for $1 million, and then they want to know the source of the cash. And when you use that cash to supplement your business, they know that cash is not coming from your operation, it's actually coming from your safety box, right? So it is really reasonable understanding they have to acquire. And so this is what I want to show you on the IRM, Internal Revenue Manual. And then I also want to show you, this is Internal Revenue Manual. And then I also want to show you that in terms of the rate of audit, like you asked me that, well, so what is the rate for me to get audited? So the general rule is that if you have a business, you have a higher rate to be audited. If you make more income, you have a higher rate to be audited. So that's very general. But if we look at 2015, this data from IRS, this is from IRS. And if you just look at the column here, percentage covered, so that tells you that, 4.47% is getting audited because they have a negative income. No total positive income, so they lose money. People who lose money has higher rate to be audited. And then the other highest rate is the one that makes a lot of money. See, 8.16. And then also higher income. So you can tell that the higher the income is, the more rate to be audited. But definitely, if you keep on reporting losses, there's a higher rate to be audited. So I hope that really helps you. Then over here, I went into SBA.gov. This is the SBA website. I went to SBA website because I want to tell you that there is a compliance assistance with federal agencies that you can check into. See, Small Business Relief Act 2002, and this gives you the list of compliance assistance that you would have in the government to help you. So like the one, when I was talking about the PowerPoint, I want to go to my last. Oh, they don't go to the last. And let me show you the one I was talking about. That's SBA's. This one, the Office of National Ombudsman's Office. This one is established by this 2002 Small Business Paperwork Relief Act, and it requires each federal agency to establish a point of contact to act as a liaison between the agency and the small business concerns. So these are the places that you can find help. Of course, you can find help with Community CPA. So we are literally at the end of the webinar time, and I hope what I talked about really makes sense to you and also offer maybe a point of relief for feeling that you're being targeted and the government is going after you. It is really very common. If you sit at where I sit and I see that to be a movement, the government goes with the directions. About a year and a half ago, there was a movement of looking into 1065 tax return. So people who file 1065 with no good reason, you're just sampled over. So one of our clients was sampled over, and no problem. When they get sampled over and they did everything right, so there's no change. So understand those initiatives in the government would help you to know that what you need to learn and what you need to do when you get audited, and relying on professionals and just making sure that on the daily basis you get your books and record really done properly. Don't look at your accounting service that you get from CPA firms as overhead. No, they are your safety net. And when you get audited, suddenly you need all of that. So if you say that, well, Ying, I'm too late because I never really done that. It's too late. I'm getting audited. No, it's never late, because the government actually do offer you opportunities to come up with papers and the records after fact. They do not say to you that, no, you cannot prepare anything. They tell you that that's okay, and you can prepare after fact document, present it to us, and we can take a look. So know that you're always giving opportunities. And, we, at our firm, we actually, with our clients, we constantly talking about how to make things better every day to prevent that windfall and from the audit, so you don't end up paying a whole bunch of penalties at the end of audit. It's almost, there is a Chinese word they were telling me that 辛辛苦苦几十年，一夜回到解放前, which means that I'm working hard for so many years, but in one shot, I give all the money back to the government. That's what they say in Chinese. That just means that you're not prepared. You are doing things really irregular and you can't answer. I'm not saying that you are hiding and cheating and doing illegal things, but you just don't have the good record that could trigger you to end up paying more taxes. So folks, and learn from what other people had done, and learn from Community CPA, and I wish you good luck. And you have us here. So whenever you need help, and give us a call, and we'd like you to join our YouTube family and subscribe to our channel and really learn. Even if you cannot show up at 3 o'clock like today, but you can always show up to YouTube when you have time. And I'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.